Non-duality and food. In this series, we're retelling the story of humanity. We're sitting around the fire here, having a little talk, and retelling who we are. So let's talk about food. It's really interesting that non-duality teachers never talk about food, except maybe, in the context of should you be a vegetarian or should you not be a vegetarian? You can't become a lot enlightened if you're not a vegetarian. But we never really talk about food. And of course, pet peeve, right? It's because so many, like all of our past non duality teachers are men. You know, they're not inside the food the way women are, because women are constantly feeding someone. I mean, really, as a mother, that's your job. I mean, you start out pregnant. Your body is feeding another human being. And then, of course, breastfeeding. And then the small child, you're feeding. A family. I mean, you get together, what happens? All the women are cooking and feeding people. It just kind of seems to be this natural thing. Every once in a while, we'll have a guy who's a really good cook, but then he'll go be a chef or something really important. But food is really kind of a woman's gig. We kind of, as a woman, you kind of feel it. It's like you got to feed people. You got to come up with, food. So let's take it a little bit deeper. Non-duality is teaching us how we are so intricately connected with everything in the whole world. Well, we are what we eat, right? We'll talk about that. But go deeper. We are what we eat. We are not just consumers of food. We literally live inside the food system. It's become way more obscure because of the fact that all of our food is produced separate from us. Isn't that kind of what non-duality is looking at anyway? All the things that are separate from us. So the food's produced way somewhere else, and then we go to the store and we buy it, and then we cook it and eat it. But even with that, we are literally living inside the food system. So broaden the way that you're perceiving who you are and where you are. And you'll see that, yes, we're on the planet, but there's this little sliver of atmosphere that covers the planet. It's wonderful to see pictures from outer space because there's the Earth, and then there's this tiny sliver of atmosphere. It's not very big, and we're living in that little sliver. And as a matter of fact, gravity holds us down. Everything is together. You literally cannot jump off the earth. You cannot jump out of the atmosphere. The atmosphere is so solid that if a spacecraft or an asteroid comes slamming into the earth, it hits the atmosphere, and it's so solid that it burns it up. Air may seem like it doesn't actually exist, but it's there. Airplanes can fly on it. Birds can fly on it. Bugs can fly on it. You get a parachute. You can jump off a cliff and fly on the air. We're down inside that. So, everything, every single speck of atmosphere is actually the earth. The plants have created oxygen, and fire creates carbon dioxide, which creates the atmosphere. And so everything in the atmosphere, every little molecule of it, comes from the earth. So the atmosphere and the earth are not separate things. So yes, we happen to be living on the surface of the earth, but not completely because we're in the atmosphere. So that's just kind of a painting a picture of how we are on the earth and we are literally inside our food system no matter where your food comes from. The fact that it grew in South America on a banana plantation, and then it was picked and shipped up here and shipped around and ends up in your grocery store and then ends up in your house, a banana. You live within the entire unity of the earth in which that banana grew. So we're living inside our food system. That's how intricately connected we are with everything. Now take it a little bit deeper, because what we're doing in this series of videos is we're retelling the human story and trying to go back before civilization and commerce and money happened. Way back to where we knew literally that we were living inside the food system, because you had to just, your daily life was all about going and getting food, bringing it back to the community, putting it together, eating it, next day, get up, do it again, food. People would migrate around following seasons and where things would be ripe and ready to eat. Even more intricately than that, native wisdom keepers are telling us now that they didn't just live as passive beings inside the food system. They knew that they were creators and gardeners of the world that they lived in. And they would actually participate in enhancing the food systems that were around them. Way better way to describe it than farming where they were, although they actually were fabulous farmers. We need to give them more credit. We'll love our ancestors more if we give them more credit that way. But they knew they were living inside the food system. One of the really good stories I've heard lately from Native American wisdom keepers is that they would burn the prairies. White man, when we describe the way that Native Americans live, we would say, oh, they followed the buffalo herds. And this one person says, no, the buffalo herds would follow us because we would create environments. Now, stop for a minute and see, how did retelling that story start changing your concept of who you are, making you feel more fluid as a being, making you feel and know how you belong here on the earth, who you are as the person who is here. We live inside our food system, all of us together. We're not just consumers of everything. We are participants in it. We can participate in a way that destroys the things around us. Or we can use our full intelligence to participate in a way that makes everything more beautiful. Once you start really understanding the heart of the natural human being, you'll realize that all the places where humans live should be and could be the most beautiful places. The way we see it right now is that you have to get away from humanity to go out in nature and see beauty. But the natural human being is full of just this much beauty. We can start living our lives in this way that makes immediate beauty around us. And this will extend to everything that we do as we start realizing that we live participating within this vastness of generosity that is the earth. the vastness of generosity is also in us. Each human being has this capacity. You know it. You know it because when you do something generous, how do you feel? When somebody else does something generous for you, how do you feel? You feel connected, right? We live inside the food system. And so don't separate yourself from the idea of food because that's just immediately turning you into a consumer. Everything is about food. There isn't a single cell in your body that would exist without food. We're eating and eating and eating all the time. We can become more and more conscious of it and then start using this act of generosity and participation that's eating. Eating is an act of immense participation. Start using it consciously to just see how you're connected to everything. And it would be really easy to say, oh, we have to go back to where everybody's just walking around and gathering their own food. Almost always we're back to the apocalyptic movies. That means almost everybody has to die, right? Or we could start realizing that right now, right here in this exact moment, in this exact place where we are, our food connects us to the entire planet. Because you sit down and you eat a meal, where did all those pieces come from? They came from everywhere, like with the salt. I mean, put a little dash of salt on, put a little dash of pepper on. That came from someplace else. So, non duality and food. We can completely rewrite the human story just by becoming fascinated with how we belong inside the food system, how we are in life, not consumers of it. How every single act that we do creates something. We can do that unconsciously, or we can do that consciously. And the more we rewrite our story to see how we belong here, and we can create beauty here with everything we do, the closer we're going to be to accessing ourselves as a real human being. And that's what non-duality means. Stepping away from the false mind, stepping away from the false face into this place of awakening